I agree with Sir Keir Starmer, QC. Can you believe
You've
that?
never said that before.
I've never said that on anything before. That's shocking. I've spent the last few days, Dan, at a Conservative Party conference, right, speaking to the party faithful and MPs. We've got a clip coming out on Recent UK tomorrow documenting all of this. But it gave me, I think, fascinating insight, because it's clear to me that the party faithful, and you were talking about this with Darren McCaffrey earlier, while still broadly on side with their man, right, their sort of Brexit titan, the Churchillian orator, undoubtedly, I think, an election-winning behemoth, right? But there are signs, obvious signs of unease with the sort of party base, because I think those conservative values that Boris once robustly championed have been forgotten, right? He doesn't remember why 14 million people voted Conservative in 2019, some for the very first time. And ultimately, I don't think it's good enough, Dan, for the Conservative Party sales pitch to be, well, it would be so much worse under Labour. And that's all it is at the minute. And as you say there in your opening remarks, build back better and getting on with the job. Is that really the best they can do, right? Plagiarising the slogan of a pension-age president that can't remember the name of world leaders or members of his own cabinet, Dan. I mean, nobody that I know of, not a single person that disagrees with the everything that you set out as well on social care, for example, or the NHS. But the problem is that there's no guarantee that this cash isn't going to be swallowed up by the NHS and local councils, who then eventually hike up local council tax, with the government potentially coming back in a few years' time and saying, well, actually, the NHS hasn't got any room to spare, any money to spare, so we're going to have to hike taxes even further just to fund social care. I mean, mentioning Margaret Thatcher in his speech today, Boris Johnson, I think, should look at Poland by the Taxpayers Alliance in the Sunday Telegraph at the weekend. That showed that working class voters, who are, I think, suffering a growing cost of living crisis, as you've also mentioned, Dan, rising levels of tax, and, you know, they don't consider anymore the Tories to be a low tax party. Many members of the Tory base, you know, these are people very, very loyal to the Conservative Party. These are people who get out on the doorstep, pound the pavement for Boris Johnson. They recognise that the tax burden hasn't been this high for 70 years.
But Darren, they loved him in the room today. I mean, clearly the Tory party faithful still think that Boris is their big star.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it basically, Dan, I would describe the relationship with Boris Johnson as being entirely transactional. And what I mean by that is they recognise that he can win elections. They recognise that this man can win power. They recognise all of these other things. But the problem is, with a pretty facade like that, with a useful sort of, I was going to say useful idiot, that's very unkind, I won't say that. But I do think, though, that there's only so many jokes you can tell, basically, Dan, right? Before people ask you to be serious. And we're going to get serious over the next few months. We're going to get serious over the next few years when the decarbonisation of the British economy starts to take shape, right? This winter's going to be a test sort of subject of that project.